It's well known that Britain has a problem with so-called Muslim refugees, but a new report reveals that even after taking in hundreds of thousands of unknown migrants, not just anyone is welcome. In fact, it turns out that in Britain, Christians aren't welcome. A new report from the Barnabas Fund, an international Christian charity, shows that out of the 1,100 refugees Britain imported in the first 3 months of 2018, not a single one was Christian. Every single migrant arriving in England was Muslim. And in 2017, of the 4,832 Syrians brought into England, a whopping 11 were Christians. That's despite the fact that Christians suffer more persecution than any other group in the Middle East, especially at the hands of the Islamic State. While thousands of Christians have been brutally tortured and slaughtered at the hands of Muslim terrorists, Britain refused to offer them sanctuary and instead opted to take in even more Muslim migrants. The 1,100 refugees England imported were from a longer list recommended by the UN, a list which included just 4 Christians. Yet not even those 4 made Britain's final cut, a problem the Barnabas Fund says the country needs to address to stop the deaths of Christians who are specifically targeted by jihadists. Christians make up roughly 10% of Syria's population, which would mean Britain should have taken in over 100 Christian refugees. Analysts say these statistics demonstrate the British government is clearly discriminating against Christians and has a legal duty to take in all refugees, no matter what their faith is. Lord George Carey, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, supported these claims, saying politically correct politicians are turning against Christian refugees. He points out that Christians are still being crucified by Muslims in places like Syria and Iraq, but politicians are terrified of being portrayed as anti-Muslim, so they refuse to take any action. And with Muslim officials who are hostile to minorities in charge of the refugee camps, it makes it nearly impossible for Christians to apply for help. And still, the government refuses to acknowledge massacres like in Malula, Syria, where al-Qaeda terrorists butchered men, women, and children, crucifying them and burning them alive in ovens, just for being Christian. Officials from Barnabas Fund say they had to go to considerable lengths just to get these figures as well, as the UK government's Home Office stubbornly refused to release them. The data was finally obtained through a painstaking Freedom of Information request, with the Information Commissioner's Office threatening the Home Office with contempt of court. There are some 5 million Muslims now living in Britain, many who arrived during the migrant crisis in 2015, many who are there illegally. With their arrival, Britain has seen a spike in crime, including gang rapes, acid, and even terrorist attacks. Yet making remarks that are even mildly critical of Islam is now considered hate speech, and offenders like Tommy Robinson or Lauren Southern can be imprisoned or banned from the country entirely.
Islam is the dominant cultural force right now. Right now, the West has an identity crisis. We don't even know what our laws are going to be. We don't know what our values are. We've kind of rejected Christianity. We're erasing our statues, tearing our history down, changing our anthems like we have in Canada. We have an identity crisis. Islam knows who they are. They know what they want. They want a global caliphate. And so Islam is dominating the Western world, and right now this is just an inkling of what the future is going to look like.
Without help, the situation for these Christians seems likely to get much worse. Just 100 years ago, Christians made up 20% of the population in the Middle East. Today, that number is down to just 4%, and it's still falling. Pearson Sharp, One America News.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.